in the quiet moments between sleep and waking, between one responsibility and the next. Many of us find ourselves confronting a profound and unsettling question that modern life seems particularly skilled at avoiding. What is this all for? The sense of drifting through existence without clear direction has become epidemic in our age, where endless options for education, career, relationships, and lifestyle choices can paradoxically leave us feeling more lost than liberated. Yet Sri Aurobindo's masterwork, The Synthesis of Yoga, offers something our contemporary world desperately needs: a comprehensive framework for building, a spiritual foundation that doesn't reject the complexities of modern existence, but transforms them into stepping stones toward authentic purpose and unshakable inner direction. This feeling of directionlessness isn't simply a matter of poor planning or insufficient goal setting, though our culture often tries to convince us that the right strategy or clearer objectives will solve our existential confusion. The deeper truth, which Sri Aurobindo understood with remarkable clarity, is that we're experiencing the natural growing pains of consciousness that has outgrown purely material definitions of success and meaning, but hasn't yet discovered its spiritual dimension. Like a plant that has exhausted the nutrients in its current soil, our souls are signaling that we need deeper nourishment, the kind that can only be found through establishing conscious connection with the divine reality that underlies all existence and gives true purpose to human life. The beauty of the synthesis of yoga lies in its recognition that this spiritual foundation isn't built through abandoning worldly engagement or retreating from the legitimate demands and opportunities of contemporary life. Instead, Sri Aurobindo reveals how every aspect of our current existence, our work, relationships, creative pursuits, daily routines, and even our struggles and uncertainties can become material for constructing an inner structure of meaning and direction that remains stable regardless of external circumstances. This isn't about adding spiritual activities to an already busy schedule, but about discovering the sacred dimension that exists within whatever we're already doing when approached with conscious intention and receptive awareness. The process begins with what Sri Aurobindo calls the development of the psychic being, the soul consciousness that exists beyond the surface personality with its changing moods, desires, fears, and social conditioning. This deeper self always knows our authentic direction and purpose, but its voice is often drowned out by the noise of mental chatter, emotional turbulence, and the endless demands for attention that characterize modern existence. Learning to listen to this inner guidance doesn't require mystical experiences or supernatural phenomena, but rather the patient cultivation of inner stillness and the gradual development of discrimination between the movements of consciousness that lead toward greater truth, beauty, and harmony, and those that create confusion, conflict, and spiritual stagnation. This foundation-building process naturally unfolds through what might be called conscious living, the practice of bringing awareness and intentionality to the ordinary activities that comprise our daily experience. The morning routine becomes an opportunity to establish inner equilibrium and clear intention for the day ahead. Conversations with family members or colleagues become occasions for practicing patience, authentic communication, and genuine care for others' well-being. Even challenging situations, traffic delays, technical difficulties, interpersonal conflicts become raw material for developing qualities like equanimity, creative problem-solving, and compassionate understanding that strengthen our spiritual foundation whilst improving our effectiveness in worldly affairs. Perhaps most importantly, this approach reveals that the direction we seek isn't a predetermined path laid out by external authority or social convention, but rather the unique expression of our individual soul's purpose as it manifests through our particular circumstances, talents, and relationships. The synthesis of yoga teaches that each person carries within them a distinctive contribution to the collective evolution of consciousness, a gift that can only be offered through their specific combination of experiences, abilities, and opportunities. This understanding transforms the search for direction from an anxious quest for the right choice among external options into an adventure of discovering and expressing our authentic, spiritual nature through whatever contexts life provides. The foundation that emerges through this process possesses qualities that no external achievement or circumstance can provide. It's unshakable because it's rooted in eternal consciousness rather than temporary conditions. It's personally meaningful because it emerges from our own inner truth rather than imposed expectations. And it's infinitely renewable because it connects us with the inexhaustible creativity and love that sustain all existence. Unlike goals based purely on personal ambition or social approval, this spiritual direction actually deepens and clarifies over time, revealing new dimensions of purpose and service as our consciousness expands and our capacity for contribution grows. The practical implications of building this foundation extend far beyond personal satisfaction or inner peace, though these certainly emerge as natural byproducts of authentic spiritual development. When we begin to live from this deeper center of purpose and direction, our actions naturally become more effective because they're aligned with the intelligence that orchestrates all existence, rather than working against the larger patterns of life through ego-driven striving and fear-based decision. Our relationships improve because we're no longer seeking validation or security from others, but can offer genuine care and support from our own inner fullness. Our work becomes more fulfilling because it's approached as conscious service rather than mere survival or personal advancement. The process of establishing spiritual foundation through the synthesis of yoga reveals itself as profoundly practical when we understand that this inner work doesn't require dramatic lifestyle changes or the abandonment of current responsibilities and relationships. Instead, it involves learning to approach whatever circumstances we already inhabit with a quality of consciousness that gradually transforms both our inner experience and our outer effectiveness. The student struggling with academic pressures discovers that studying becomes more enjoyable and efficient when approached as an opportunity to develop concentration and understanding rather than merely accumulating information for competitive advantage. The parent managing household responsibilities whilst caring for children finds that domestic activities become sources of satisfaction and spiritual growth when performed with conscious attention and loving intention rather than mechanical routine or resentful obligation. This transformation begins with recognizing that every moment offers a choice between conscious participation in life's unfolding intelligence or unconscious reaction driven by habit, fear, or social conditioning. The morning alarm becomes an invitation to greet the day with gratitude and clear intention rather than groaning resistance to unavoidable obligations. The commute to work becomes time for contemplative awareness or inspiring reading rather than stressful rushing or mindless entertainment consumption. Even mundane tasks like washing dishes or organizing living spaces become opportunities for developing presence and appreciation for the simple miracle of embodied existence when approached with conscious attention rather than impatient, hurried to finish and move on to supposedly more important activities. The synthesis of yoga emphasizes that this foundation-building process naturally integrates the three classical paths of spiritual development: knowledge, love, and works in ways that serve contemporary life whilst honoring ancient wisdom. The path of knowledge develops through questioning our assumptions about what constitutes genuine success and happiness, studying teachings that expand our understanding of consciousness and reality, and cultivating direct insight into the nature of our own being beyond social roles and personal history. The path of love unfolds through developing genuine care for the well-being of others. Appreciation for the beauty and intelligence manifest in nature and human creativity, and devotional connection with the divine presence that sustains and guides all existence. The path of works expresses itself through approaching all activities as conscious service to something greater than personal interest, developing skills and qualities that enable more effective contribution to collective well-being, and gradually aligning our individual will with the evolutionary intelligence that seeks expression through human consciousness and activity. Perhaps most remarkably, this integrated approach creates what Sri Aurobindo calls the Gnostic life, existence that operates from spiritual wisdom whilst remaining fully engaged with practical responsibilities and worldly opportunities. This doesn't mean becoming otherworldly or losing touch with human concerns, but rather discovering how divine consciousness can express itself through the very activities and relationships that previously felt like obstacles to spiritual development. The business meeting becomes a venue for practicing clear communication and collaborative problem-solving. The family gathering becomes an opportunity for expressing unconditional love and patient understanding. The solo walk in natural surroundings becomes communion with the creative intelligence that manifests as trees, birds, changing weather, and the subtle energies that connect all life in patterns of mutual support and evolutionary unfolding. The foundation that develops through sustained practice of this integrated approach provides something that no external achievement or security can offer: an unshakable sense of meaning and direction that remains stable through all the inevitable changes and challenges that characterize human existence. Job transitions become opportunities for discovering new forms of service, rather than threats to identity and financial security. Relationship changes become invitations to develop deeper capacities for love and understanding, rather than evidence of personal failure or inadequacy. Health challenges become occasions for exploring the relationship between consciousness and physical well-being, rather than merely inconvenient obstacles to preferred activities and plans. This spiritual foundation naturally generates what we might call authentic confidence, not the brittle assertion of ego that crumbles when challenged, but the quiet certainty that comes from knowing our essential nature and purpose transcend any particular circumstances or achievements. This confidence enables us to take appropriate risks in service of our authentic calling without being paralyzed by fear of failure or success. It allows us to speak truthfully in situations where honesty might be uncomfortable or socially awkward, without being driven by the need to prove ourselves right or make others wrong. It supports us in making decisions based on inner guidance and long-term consequences, rather than immediate gratification or social approval. The ripple effects of establishing this foundation extend far beyond personal transformation to influence every relationship and community we participate in. The quality of presence and authentic care that develops through spiritual practice naturally creates more harmonious family dynamics, more productive and enjoyable working relationships, and more supportive community connections. People sense when they're interacting with someone who possesses genuine inner stability and purpose, and they often respond by accessing their own deeper capacities for honesty, creativity, and mutual support. Moreover, this approach reveals that individual spiritual development and collective social healing are not separate processes, but different aspects of the same evolutionary movement toward greater consciousness and compassionate cooperation throughout human civilization. As more individuals establish genuine spiritual foundations and learn to live from their authentic purpose and inner guidance, society gradually shifts toward values and structures that support human flourishing, rather than merely extracting productivity and consumption from human energy and natural resources. The sustainability of this path becomes evident as we discover that living from spiritual foundation actually increases rather than depletes our energy for engaging with worldly challenges and opportunities. Unlike approaches to meaning and direction based on personal ambition or external validation, which require constant effort to maintain and defend, authentic spiritual purpose regenerates itself through expression and service, creating an upward spiral of fulfillment and contribution that enriches both individual experience and collective well-being. What touches me most deeply about sharing this understanding is recognizing that every person who feels directionless or spiritually hungry is actually responding to the call of their own soul toward greater authenticity and meaningful contribution. If you've been sensing that there must be something more than the endless cycle of work, consume, distract, repeat that characterizes so much contemporary existence, if you've been wondering whether your life could have deeper purpose and clearer direction, then you're already beginning to build the spiritual foundation that Sri Aurobindo describes. This isn't just another self-help approach or productivity system. It's an invitation to discover the extraordinary purpose and unshakable direction that become available when we learn to live as conscious expressions of the divine intelligence that creates and sustains all existence. I'd be honored if you'd join our exploration of this transformative path by subscribing to our channel. But what moves me even more is knowing that your own journey of discovering authentic spiritual foundation contributes to humanity's collective awakening to more conscious and compassionate ways of being in the world. What aspects of contemporary life have left you feeling most directionless? And where have you glimpsed moments of deeper purpose and meaning that hint at the spiritual foundation waiting to be built? The ultimate gift of building spiritual foundation through the synthesis of yoga is the discovery that what we seek through external achievements and acquisitions, lasting satisfaction, unshakable security, meaningful purpose, and genuine happiness actually emerge naturally from within when we establish conscious connection with our essential spiritual nature. This isn't a philosophical concept or religious belief that must be accepted on faith, but a practical reality that reveals itself through sustained practice of living consciously and serving purposes greater than personal comfort and social recognition. The foundation that develops through this approach possesses qualities that no external circumstances can provide or destroy. It's renewable because it connects us with the inexhaustible creativity of consciousness itself. It's personally authentic because it emerges from our unique soul purpose rather than imposed expectations. And it's infinitely expandable because it aligns us with the evolutionary intelligence that seeks ever greater expressions of truth, beauty, and conscious cooperation throughout the universe. This transformation manifests most clearly in how we respond to the inevitable uncertainties and challenges that characterize human existence. Instead of being destabilized by unexpected changes in employment, relationships, health, or living circumstances, we begin to meet these transitions as opportunities for discovering new dimensions of our spiritual foundation and finding fresh ways to express our authentic purpose through whatever conditions arise. The job loss that once would have triggered existential crisis becomes an invitation to explore new forms of service and contribution. The relationship ending that previously felt like personal failure becomes a chance to develop deeper capacities for unconditional love and understanding. The health challenge that might have seemed like meaningless suffering becomes a gateway to exploring the mysterious relationship between consciousness and physical well-being, often revealing reserves of strength and wisdom we didn't know we possessed. Perhaps most beautifully, this foundation enables us to discover what Sri Aurobindo calls our Svadharma, our unique spiritual purpose and individual contribution to the collective evolution of consciousness on Earth. Unlike career goals or life plans based on external expectations or social conditioning, this authentic calling emerges from the intersection of our deepest values, natural talents, current circumstances, and the genuine needs of the world around us. It might express itself through traditional forms of service and creativity, or it might manifest in completely unexpected ways that couldn't have been planned or anticipated through ordinary thinking and strategic planning. The crucial element is not the specific form this purpose takes, but the quality of consciousness and intention we bring to whatever roles and activities become vehicles for expressing our spiritual foundation. The integration of spiritual foundation with practical effectiveness becomes particularly evident in how this approach transforms our relationship with work and professional responsibilities. Instead of viewing career activities as necessary burdens that prevent us from pursuing more meaningful spiritual development, we discover how conscious engagement with worldly responsibilities can become the very medium through which our spiritual foundation deepens and our authentic purpose unfolds. The quality of presence and genuine care we bring to seemingly mundane tasks often produces results that surprise us with their effectiveness and satisfaction. The patient perseverance we develop through spiritual practice enables us to tackle complex projects and navigate challenging relationships with greater skill and equanimity. The trust and larger intelligence that comes from established spiritual foundation allows us to take appropriate risks and make difficult decisions without being paralyzed by fear of failure or attachment to specific outcomes. This understanding naturally extends into our relationships with family, friends, and community members, transforming these connections from sources of emotional dependency or social obligation into opportunities for mutual support in spiritual growth and authentic living. We begin to see others not as providers of validation or security, but as fellow souls on their own journeys of awakening, each struggling with their own challenges and seeking their own authentic expression of spiritual purpose. This perspective enables us to offer genuine support without trying to control or manipulate others' choices, to receive love and assistance without feeling indebted or inadequate, and to navigate conflicts and misunderstandings with compassion and wisdom rather than defensive reactivity or aggressive assertion. The collective implications of this individual transformation become apparent as we recognize that every person who establishes genuine spiritual foundation and learns to live from authentic purpose contributes to humanity's gradual evolution toward more conscious and sustainable civilization. The business owner who operates from spiritual values naturally creates working environments that support employee well-being alongside financial success. The parent who lives from established foundation raises children who understand that true security comes from inner connection rather than external achievements. The citizen who votes and participates in community affairs from spiritual wisdom contributes to political processes that serve long-term flourishing rather than short-term advantage or partisan interests. The ultimate recognition that emerges through sustained engagement with this path is that the direction we seek through spiritual foundation isn't a predetermined destination to be reached, but rather an ongoing adventure of conscious participation in the evolutionary unfolding of consciousness itself. Each day offers new opportunities to deepen our foundation through conscious living, to express our authentic purpose through whatever circumstances arise, and to contribute to the collective awakening that Sri Aurobindo saw as humanity's inevitable destiny and greatest opportunity. The sense of meaninglessness and lack of direction that initially drives us to seek spiritual foundation gradually transforms into excitement about the infinite possibilities for growth, service, and creative expression that become available when we learn to live as conscious participants in the cosmic adventure of awakening. As we conclude this exploration into building spiritual foundation through the synthesis of yoga. My heart overflows with gratitude for every soul who recognizes that the directionlessness and spiritual hunger of our times are not personal failures, but collective symptoms of consciousness that is ready to evolve beyond purely material definitions of success and meaning. The path that Sri Aurobindo illuminated over a century ago has never been more relevant or urgently needed than in our current moment, when the breakdown of traditional structures and the acceleration of global change create both unprecedented challenges and extraordinary opportunities for spiritual awakening and authentic living. If these insights about building unshakable spiritual foundation have touched something real in your own experience, if you can sense the possibility of discovering genuine direction and purpose through conscious engagement with your current circumstances, rather than waiting for ideal conditions or perfect clarity, then you're already walking the path of conscious evolution that the synthesis of yoga describes. I would be deeply moved if you'd continue this exploration with us by subscribing to our channel. But what inspires me most is hearing about your own journey of discovering authentic spiritual foundation amidst the complexities and uncertainties of contemporary existence. What aspects of modern life have left you feeling most directionless or spiritually hungry? Where have you discovered unexpected sources of meaning and purpose that hint at the deeper foundation waiting to be built? What practices or insights have helped you maintain inner stability and clear intention whilst navigating the inevitable challenges and changes of human existence? How has your search for authentic direction led you to question conventional definitions of success and explore deeper sources of fulfillment and contribution? Please share your experiences, questions, and discoveries in the comments below. Your journey of building spiritual foundation illuminates possibilities for all of us who are learning to live as conscious expressions of the divine intelligence that seeks ever greater manifestations of truth, beauty, and love through human consciousness and activity. This exploration isn't just about understanding spiritual teachings or feeling temporarily inspired. It's about recognizing that we live in extraordinary times when individual awakening and collective transformation can happen simultaneously through the simple choice to build our lives upon spiritual foundation rather than the shifting sands of external circumstances and social expectations. Discovering that the direction we seek has always been available within us, waiting to be recognized and expressed through whatever contexts life provides for our unique contribution to the ongoing adventure of consciousness, knowing, and creating itself through infinite forms of beauty, service, and awakened participation in existence itself.